I used to be a developer at Ubisoft during what most fans would consider their golden era, which was somewhere around the late 2000s, early 2010s. You've most likely played some of the games I've worked on, like Prince of Persia, Far Cry 2, and my personal favorite, Assassin's Creed 2. But I'm sure almost everyone can agree that Ubisoft is nowhere near their former glory in 2026. After the golden era, where they'll still have a decent game here and there, like Ghost Recon, and I even enjoyed my time with AC Mirage. But other than those, almost all of their games nowadays are live service cash grabs. Anyway, my work history and my opinion of current Ubisoft isn't why I'm posting this. It's actually about the last game I ever worked on at Ubisoft, which was Far Cry 3. Now you're probably scratching your head wondering how it could be Far Cry 3 considering a lot of people consider it to be one of the best games of all time. Well, it's not the game itself, but it's the hidden meaning behind it. Knowing what I know makes it a completely different game entirely, and hopefully you will understand how after I explain it, but for it to all make sense, I have to start from where it all went wrong. So for my first 2 years at Ubisoft, I started out as an assistant programmer on mainly Far Cry 2 and Prince of Persia. Then, after the first Assassin's Creed became a huge success, I was gladly switched from working on that horrid old Avatar game to Assassin's Creed 2, and considering that I was already a huge fan of the first game, I was pleased and excited to be a part of this gaming franchise I love. So from late 2008 to early 2012, I pretty much worked exclusively with the Assassin's Creed franchise, where I eventually worked my way from assistant programmer to senior programmer, but things took a strange turn when, on a random Thursday in April 2012, I was working on AC3 when, out of the blue, I got an email from the Ubisoft CEO himself, Yves Guillemot, offering me to move from AC3 to Far Cry 3 due to their last senior programmer quitting and me already having experience with the Far Cry franchise. He thought I was a good fit, but did say that my name would still be credited for AC3 and I would even have a slight pay increase if I took the offer. After reading that email, I had very mixed feelings about this because on one hand, I've spent the last 3 years working on AC3 just to suddenly switch to a different game entirely, but on the other hand, I do get a pay increase with it, and I'm still credited for my work on AC3 if I do take the offer. So ultimately, I landed on accepting the offer and moving to Far Cry 3. Now, this wasn't because of the pay increase, but because at this point, I was definitely a little burnt out on only working Assassin's Creed games, and the company's been good to me over all these years, so I kinda owed it to them. Fast forward about half a year later, and Far Cry 3's only a week from releasing, and I really pulled my own weight around the team of Far Cry 3, and by a miracle, we were able to get the game complete in time. My co-workers threw a party when the game officially went gold. For those of you who don't know what that means, it pretty much just means the game's complete and ready to release. So, right when the party ended, I did one last check on my work laptop, and it turns out I got another email from the Ubisoft CEO in which he offered me the CFO position, since at the time, the CFO, Alan Martinez, was going through drug use issues at the time, and thought that with my over half a decade of experience and good track record that I would be perfect for the job, and that we would discuss about it over dinner that weekend. So more excited than ever about this opportunity, I replied to his email saying, "That sounds great, I know a couple of good restaurants in town that we could eat at." And after what felt like just a few seconds, I got a reply from him that said, "Just meet me at the office at 9 p.m. tomorrow night. I'll leave the door unlocked and I'll order pizza." I found that pretty strange, since most business meetings that would be over lunch or dinner would be at a fancy restaurant. And what was also weird was that it was Friday and we almost never did anything over the weekend. But at the time, I was too hyped up about the promotion to really give it a second thought, so I just went home and relaxed the rest of the night and most of that next day. Then before I knew it, I was in my car on the way to the building I work in at 9 p.m. on a Saturday. And the entire ride there was when I finally started having second thoughts, realizing how weird it is for the CEO of a multi-billion-dollar company to meet me at one of the studios that he practically never goes to. But before I could think of a reasonable explanation, I was already in the parking lot. That's when I walked to the front door and realized that Yves wasn't lying, and he actually left the door open, so I let myself in. Then I realized that the email never said where in the building to meet him, so I just walked to the first place I thought of, which was the cubicle I worked in. But that walk there was one of the more unsettling and eerie things I've had to do, considering that I was walking through this place that is usually packed with coworkers and things going on. But eventually, I was able to find my cubicle despite only having my phone flashlight as the only source of light I had. And what I found in my cubicle was pretty interesting. There was a medium pizza for Papa John's and a 2-liter of Coke on my desk, with a disc on top of the pizza with a note on it. So, more confused than ever, I sat down and read the note, which was from Yves, and it had 2 separate sentences on them, with the first one saying, "I regret to inform you that I couldn't make it. Please enjoy yourself to the pizza and Coke that I had my friend leave for you." And the second sentence saying, "Before you can accept or deny this offer for the CFO position, insert the disc into the PC in the main lobby, but make sure you lock the front door before you boot it up." A huge mix of anger, confusion, and a little bit of fear hit me like a ton of bricks. Why would Yves ditch me? What did he ditch me for? Why did he leave a disc? And why does he want me to lock up the building before I boot up said disc? Eventually, I just came to common sense and started doing what the note requested. I put the disc in the PC at the receptionist desks in the front lobby, locked the doors, and had a couple of those slices of pizza since I remembered that I still hadn't eaten yet. So as I ate my dinner, I booted up the disc, and it started pretty normal. It played the usual Ubisoft intro and loaded into a game, which was Far Cry 3. Keep in mind, this was just days before the actual release of the game, so for a second, I had a sigh of relief, because I thought the reason why Yves had me shut the door was because the game wasn't released to the public yet, but as I went deeper into the game, that couldn't have been further from the truth. The first red flag I noticed was in the main menu screen. It still had the usual Far Cry 3 logo, but the background was red instead of blue, and instead of Voss, it was Jason Brody as the person in the main menu, which was odd because throughout the whole time I was working on the game, it was always Voss. But I gave it the benefit of the doubt since Ubisoft had been working on the game for over a year before I was involved in it. So I looked at the options and saw that the only option was new game. No load game, no settings, not even the multiplayer mode that was very time consuming for us to make. That was red flag number 2, so I was feeling a little creeped out at this point. Then I just sat there for a few minutes trying to build up the courage to hit new game. And unlike how the game usually starts with the intro cutscene with Jason and his friends, the game automatically loaded me just 500 feet from Citrus Temple. That didn't really bother me too much because at this point, I'd convinced myself that I was playing an unfinished build of the game, so obviously it's not going to have cutscenes. So with nothing else to do, I started walking towards Citrus Temple, and as my character was walking there, I was about 100 feet from it. Then the game prompted me, asking me if I wanted to go past this point. I clicked yes, then another question popped up asking me the same thing, but this time it said, "There's no going back. You will learn things that you must take to your grave, or there will be severe consequences." Now that was red flag number 3. I was freaked out at this point, because it just added more on the pile of unexplained thing after unexplained thing. Like, why am I here by myself on a Saturday night for a business meeting with the CEO, just for him to ditch me? Why did he want me to play this game so bad? Why did I even get transferred to work on Far Cry in the first place? So all I knew in that moment was on Monday, I was putting in my 2-week notice and start looking for a new job at another game studio. So more furious than ever, I got up and was about to leave without even turning the PC off. Looking back, I wish I had just done that, but the morbid curiosity got the better of me. So even though I was still planning on quitting, I still went back to the PC to see where this goes. So I clicked yes on the pop-up, and it allowed me to proceed the rest of the way to Citrus Temple. And that's when I noticed that Citrus Temple looked abandoned. Like, no human being's been here for centuries, kind of abandoned. Which gave me a very eerie feeling, made even worse by the fact that it was nighttime in the game. But that's when I saw that there was a single torch where the room with the ancient glyphs were, where you talk to Citra in the game. As I walked in the cave, all the glyphs were different. They weren't the ancient glyphs anymore. In fact, they were English words that I actually understood, and it said, "Congratulations, you've been promoted to CFO of Ubisoft Games. Sorry that we couldn't show you the many great benefits in person due to the great risk that would have brought. So I hope you'll understand why we didn't meet in person. Walk further down the hallway for the next message." More bewildered than ever, I slowly pressed W on the keyboard and kept walking down the hallway, even though, at this point, I had a good idea where this was going. Whatever these benefits of being CFO were obviously illegal, because why else would they have gone out of their way to develop a different version of Far Cry 3 just to tell me it? So I had to mentally prepare myself for what was coming next. As I finally got to the last message, it said, "You will get to meet a good friend of mine, aka my accountant, Jeffrey Epstein." Now before I go any further, remember that this was back in 2012, back when no one really knew who he was and what he did, so this was my first introduction to him. So after that, it said, "Jeffrey and I go way back. He's even the inspiration of the entire Far Cry franchise, because he has this awesome island where he could help you meet any celebrity you want, get you to make more money than you could ever dream of, and get you any fuck buddy you want, no matter the age, and you could even torture any poor bastard you like, just to take your anger out, like this for example." Then a video started playing on the screen, and all it showed on the screen was a mostly dark room with a single light shining in the middle of the room. And there was this very bruised and bloody kid tied up to a chair who, if I had to guess, he could have been older than 16. Then, out of nowhere, I see about a dozen people circle around the kid, which included Yves, a few notable celebrities who I would have never imagined doing something like this, and a couple of US politicians. I truly couldn't believe what I was seeing. And as everybody circled around the kid, each and every one of them started taking turns in torturing this poor kid. One of them cut a finger off, another one cut his tongue out, and many, many more inhumane things that still keeps me up at night. So at this point, I turned my head away from the desk and I puked my guts out. Seeing that made me never even want to touch the Far Cry franchise again, just thinking about how the whole series was based off this rich asshole with an island, and how Voss, how he always talked about the definition of insanity, he was talking about how Epstein was the definition of insanity. And I was so worked up that I didn't even realize that the video wasn't playing anymore, and what was on the screen was me, and a recording symbol on the top right corner. They must have been seeing how I reacted to the video to see if I was up for the deal, because right after that, the alarm started going off in the studio, and the front windows were starting to seal with these metal barriers. So with no time to spare, I grabbed the chair I was sitting on and threw it at the window as it shattered into a million pieces. And luckily, the room I was in had really high ceilings, so I had enough time to get out of the studio before the metal barriers could block my way out. And I was about to get in my car, and then I heard sirens in the distance. At that moment, two scenarios played in my head. Either A, I waited there for the cops to explain the whole story to them, and I got let off since I didn't really do anything bad. Or B, those bastards somehow pinpoint everything they did onto me, and the cops were on their way to arrest me. After a few seconds of thinking, I decided that scenario B was more likely, so I got in my car and sped home fast enough that the cops weren't able to follow me home. And as I got home, I don't know why, but the first thing I did when I got home was turn on my TV, and I see that I'm on the news with the headline being "Video game developer with over 100 terabytes of illegal videos on computer out on the loose and at large." Seeing that, I had a sigh of relief, since I now know that I made the right call by not trying to explain everything to the cops, but also fear, knowing that I had at most half an hour before the SWAT team kicks down my door and I get framed for everything I had just witnessed. So I grabbed my suitcase and only brought maybe 3 days worth of clothes, a couple $1,000s in cash I had in my drawer in case of emergencies, a few toiletries, and got the hell out of there. And I haven't been back at my house since, or even the United States as a matter of fact. Now, I could go on for hours talking about the decade-and-a-half long journey I've had, going from country to country, avoiding these rich assholes trying to kill me because I know what they've done. But to avoid leaking where I'm at, all I'll say is nowadays I'm living in a country that's nowhere near the US, which I will not name, and working at a new game studio, which I will also not name. Typing this out made me think about what could have been. If I was a fucked up piece of shit like them, I think I could have been rich and have more money than I would have ever imagined. But I chose to be sane. I chose to fight against this sick and twisted battle against these assholes who practically run the world. I want you, the viewers, to know who runs things behind the... Who the fuck are...